Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged to obtain professional legal and medical services.
Check, 1 2 1 2.
Live across the universe.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's about that time, y'all.
you are now in the mix.
It's time to wake up, folks. Don't touch that button. You're locked in to Wake Up Live from K.L.P Studios.
Hey, what's up, ATL fam? Blondie here, wide-eyed and caffeinated, ready to drag you out of dream mode whether you like it or not.
And I'm Sarah Walken, fueled by too many cups of coffee and way too many ideas. We're here to stir up your mind, shake your routines, and drop some truth bombs before your first meeting.
Today's lineup? We're getting into the buzz around the city. You know, big stories with even bigger consequences. We've got a local hero feature, a culture conversation that's got people talking, and a surprise guest who'll either make your jaw drop or your eye roll. Maybe both.
The AI industry just hit a staggering milestone. Companies in this sector drove 80% of all stock market gains this year. But what happens when a bubble this big finally pops?
Those numbers are truly mind-boggling. And what's even more surprising is that tech leaders are actually starting to acknowledge the concerns.
You know what's fascinating? Even Sam Altman at OpenAI's Dev Day admitted there are bubbly parts of AI right now, though he was quick to say his company wasn't one of them.
Well, that's quite a shift from the usual Silicon Valley optimism. Have you seen the projections from Gartner about AI spending?
Oh yes, they're estimating global AI spending will hit $1.5 trillion by the end of 2025. And here's what's really concerning. We're seeing this incredibly complex web of financial deals between major players.
Like that massive $100 billion deal between OpenAI and NVIDIA.
Exactly. And right after that, OpenAI announces they're buying billions in equipment from AMD. Plus, you've got Microsoft heavily invested in OpenAI and Oracle with their $300 billion deal. It's like this giant game of financial Jenga.
That reminds me of what some experts are calling circular financing, where companies are essentially investing in their own customers to keep the money flowing.
Right, and that's exactly what happened with Nortel before their collapse. They were creating artificial demand through customer financing, and well, we all know how that ended.
Though Jensen Huang from NVIDIA is pushing back against those comparisons, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he went on CNBC to emphasize that OpenAI isn't required to use their investment money for NVIDIA products. But here's what's really interesting. Jerry Kaplan, who's lived through 4 tech bubbles, is raising some serious red flags.
What specifically has him worried about this one?
Well, he points to 3 major warning signs. Companies announcing huge initiatives without secured capital, retail investors scrambling to get in on startup action, and this massive infrastructure build-out happening in remote locations. He's actually calling these AI data centers a potential man-made ecological disaster waiting to happen.
Though I've heard some argue that even if there is a bubble, the infrastructure being built now could still be valuable in the long run.
That's exactly what Jeff Boudier at Hugging Face said. He pointed out how the internet was built on the ashes of overinvestment in telecom infrastructure. So even if valuations crash, the physical infrastructure might enable innovations we haven't even imagined yet.
You know what makes this situation particularly complex? Unlike some previous bubbles, AI technology itself seems to have genuine transformative potential.
Absolutely right. And that's why we're seeing major financial institutions like the Bank of England, IMF, and even Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan all raising concerns. They recognize both the potential and the risks.
The interconnectedness of these deals seems particularly dangerous. If one company stumbles,
it could trigger a domino effect. And what's really concerning is the scale. As Riyad Yark pointed out, who else besides NVIDIA even has the capacity to invest $100 billion in another company right now?
So what do you think will be the first signs that the bubble is actually bursting?
Well, Professor Anat Admati from Stanford made an interesting point about this. You often can't be certain you're in a bubble until after it's burst. but I'd watch for these elaborate financing deals starting to unravel or companies missing their ambitious development targets.
The environmental impact of all this is pretty staggering too. These massive data centers being built, the energy consumption.
And that's what makes this potential bubble so different from previous ones. We're not just talking about stock market values or company valuations. We're talking about fundamental changes to infrastructure and how businesses operate.
Looking ahead, how do you think we can harness AI's potential while avoiding these financial pitfalls?
That's really the trillion-dollar question, isn't it? I think the key will be finding a balance between innovation and sustainable growth. We need to ensure that even if there is a market correction, the valuable aspects of AI development can continue.
So, in other words, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly. Because despite all these warning signs, AI itself isn't going anywhere. The question isn't if AI will transform our world, but how we navigate the financial structures we're building around it. And hopefully, by having these conversations now, we can avoid some of the worst potential outcomes.
Hollywood has lost over 50 legendary actors in the past decade, but Diane Keaton's passing hits differently. She redefined what it meant to be authentic in an industry built on illusion.
You know what really stands out in all the tributes pouring in? The way everyone keeps mentioning her genuineness. Goldie Hawn's words about her leaving a trail of fairy dust feel so personal, so real.
And that authenticity showed up everywhere, from her Oscar-winning performance in Annie Hall to her unique fashion choices. She never tried to fit the Hollywood mold, did she? Even when she was starring in The Godfather, she was already charting her own path.
Speaking of The Godfather, it's fascinating how she went from such a serious dramatic role to becoming this incredible comedy icon. The range she showed throughout her career was remarkable.
Well, here's what's really interesting about that. She actually won the Triple Crown for Annie Hall, Oscar, Golden Globe, and BAFTA. But according to Bette Midler, she remained completely without competitiveness, which is pretty much unheard of in Hollywood.
That reminds me of that story Steve Martin shared where she called both him and Martin short idiots when asked who was sexier. That kind of unfiltered honesty was so typically her.
Oh my gosh, yes! And you know what's fascinating? She maintained that same honest approach throughout her 5-decade career. She was transparent about never marrying, about adoption, about her creative choices, but somehow never got caught up in scandal or drama.
Well, let's talk about those creative choices because they were pretty bold. I mean, her first directing project was a documentary about the afterlife. Not exactly a safe choice for a Hollywood star making her directorial debut.
That's such a good point. Heaven in 1987 really showed her willingness to take risks, and then Unstrung Heroes made it to Cannes Film Festival's Une Certain Regard section. She wasn't just directing as a vanity project, she was really pushing boundaries.
You know what I find most impressive? The way she handled aging in Hollywood. She kept taking leading roles well into her 70s, and these weren't just grandmother parts. They were full, complex characters.
Right. And let's remember, she got an Oscar nomination for Something's Gotta Give when she was in her late 50s. She basically rewrote the rules about what kinds of roles women could play at different ages.
The quote from her 2011 autobiography really shows where her priorities were, doesn't it? When she wrote about how her happiness was completely tied to her children's joy, that level of emotional honesty is rare in celebrity memoirs.
And speaking of honesty, her impact on fashion was revolutionary. Those menswear-inspired looks and wide-brimmed hats weren't just style choices, they were statements about being comfortable in your own skin.
That's exactly what made her so influential. She showed that success doesn't require conformity. She maintained her quirks, her unique laugh, her distinctive style throughout her entire career.
You know what's really striking? She worked consistently from 1970 right up until 2024 with Summer Camp. That's 54 years of staying relevant while remaining true to herself. In today's social media age, that seems almost impossible to achieve.
Well, what do you think made that possible? How did she maintain such longevity while staying so authentic?
I think it was her ability to balance commercial success with artistic integrity. She could do Father of the Bride and then turn around and make smaller, more experimental films. She never let herself be pigeonholed.
The way her colleagues are remembering her really reflects that. Paul Feig called her amazingly kind and creative. That combination seems to be what everyone remembers about her.
Exactly. And you know what's remarkable? She maintained these deep friendships in Hollywood for decades. The chemistry she had with Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler in First Wives Club wasn't just acting. Those relationships were real.
So what do you think her lasting legacy will be in Hollywood?
I think she showed that authenticity and success aren't mutually exclusive. She proved you could be different, be yourself, and still reach the highest levels of success in an industry that often demands conformity. That's pretty revolutionary when you think about it.
Well, as Goldie Hawn said, she left that trail of fairy dust. And it seems like that magic touched everyone who worked with her or watched her performances over these past 5 decades.
You're right. While we're mourning her loss, we're also celebrating someone who showed us how to navigate life with grace, humor, and unwavering authenticity. That's quite a legacy to leave behind.
Check 1 2 1 2.
Live across the universe.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's about that time, y'all.
you are now in the mix.
It's time to wake up, folks. Don't touch that button. You're locked in to Wake Up Live from K.L.P Studios.
Made in Georgia. This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.